Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arrowfire and welcome back to a bit of an impromptu episode of All Talk No Shock. It's a bit early here in the UK, but this is the day after the first day of TFCon in Chicago 2022 at the moment, and there's been some third-party reveals. There's actually been quite a few smaller, low-key reveals there. I'm not going to focus on all of them, but I wanted to do a video. There's been a couple of interesting bombshells dropped, no pun intended, and we're going to go through them now. We've got a lot to get through. Let's get cracking with the knacking. So I want to start with X-Transbots, and for those of you who have been on my channel recently, you would have seen I've had a bit of an interesting relationship with them with one of their more recent purchases. But yeah, we finally get to see some in-hand, very finished prototypes now of some of their upcoming releases, and here you have the form of punch counterpunch on the left hand side, looking very blue. It's fair to say this is the counterpunch character, I believe. And then at the back there you have the Quintesson judge, not the judge, the barrister. I don't know what you'd actually call him. I don't even think we know a name for the character. What is it? What is that the character's name? I cannot think. But it is basically the Speaker of the House, no, so the Speaker of the Court. I'll have to find out the actual term and put it below. But more importantly, on the right hand side of the picture you have their finished version of Galvatron, and this does look very good. This has been teased for a while. I will say this does look very good, and it looks very toon accurate, but the proportions on it look a bit off to me all across. Like, I think the thighs look very chubby, I think the arms look very small, his cannon looks incredibly stumpy. That being said, it does look good. I can't understand how they've done it, but I love the face sculpt. It's a very pastel-y looking colour set. I think the purple is quite strong, but the cannon colour is a very almost lollipop yellow perhaps, and the off-white is very off-white. It's almost a chalky white colour. Interesting colour palette, but it does look good, I will stress that. We will have to see how it looks in hand. It doesn't look the tallest figure in the world. So if you were to put that, say, alongside a Fanstoys Cyclonus, it may be dwarfed quite a lot. But interesting to see. Good to see it very far in production for all of these. Now moving on, we see some other offerings from X-Transbots that were there, and apologies, these aren't the most clearest pictures in the world. More will surface online, I'm sure. But what we see on the left hand side in particular is their version of Runabout and Runamuck, and there's actually a good side profile shot of these guys, which we saw in their early renders as well. And I didn't download the image, so apologies for that, but when you see the bot modes on their side, it's very slender, very thin. You can just see on the feet there, they're not the deepest figures in the world. I like them, I like how they look, particularly in bot mode. It doesn't look the final image to me. Something about it does give me a sense of unfinished. And I do think in many ways they look a little bit bland, but at the same time I like seeing them, and I'm surprised they fold out into such compact cars, but to also be compact robots. There could be a lot of folding away panels for these, but hey, they do look good. I love the little wing mirrors on the side that they're protruding as well. Yeah, it looks quite interesting. But also we see some Constructicons. Now, I wasn't too sure that they were going to be pushing on with this set, but this is X-Transbots getting into a Devastator mold, a combined set as well. And we have Scrapper, which is pretty far in production now compared to some of the others, but you also have Long Haul at the back there. Now that is definitely an early prototype. You can tell by the colour shade of green used, it's not even matching. And they did release some more digital renders of this at TFCon as well. So they're going ahead with this set, but Scrapper is the first one that's been pushed this far out. He even comes with a trumpet and a sword, which is great. But Long Haul, I've seen a transformation to it. He is going to turn into a big sized dump truck when you put him alongside the vehicle mode of Scrapper, but the bot mode again looks very slender, and I wonder if it's all in the legs for that figure. Is it all just going to fold up into his legs as the back of the dump truck? Again, very early, so I'm not going to push them too much on that. We also get the new version, or the revised version of the Robo-Sen automated Optimus Prime that's shown there, and you can even see the trailer in the back as well, which I actually think is for the original release, the bigger version. So What we have seen recently is that there's going to be, I think it's called an elite version. It is a smaller version, a cheaper version, and I don't know what it's going to cost, but I think the original Robo-Sen was something like $1,000, I think it was. Then this could maybe be something in the realms of $500 to $600. If it is the version I'm thinking of. But this has been on display, and you can see the trailer in the background as well, which also transforms as well into a battle station. I would be tempted, but I don't know. I like to transform my Transformers. I'm a bit of a stickler for that, but I am tempted to see it. I love the fact you can program in controls with your phone. I think this will be a line that we see more of. I think it's only a matter of time before we see a Bumblebee or a Jazz or whoever. So yeah, I do think it looks good. And also coming up next is Ocular Max, or MMC by another name, and we've seen this being battered around online a little bit. We knew it was in development, and we actually physically saw it at a convention as well. This is their version of a cassette of Steeljaw, like they have done with the cassette tapes of the Decepticons for Soundwave. This does look really good, and what I really like about this is that whilst I don't necessarily need it in my collection, and I wasn't the biggest fan in the world of Steeljaw, I love the fact that a very thin, compact cassette tape, which comes in a little cassette case, which I think is brilliant. Look at the head sculpt of it. I love the fact that it's still very chunky for a very thin profile cassette, but that again shows the engineering that MMC, Ocular Max, can do. They do like to do this origami style Transformers. And if you look at the next page, you've got the three there that will either be coming out or soon to be released anyway. They all seem pretty far in development, and you could have a whole deck of cassette tapes, if you like, just lying around alongside a blaster of your choice. Now, it's fair to say that Ocular Max or MMC haven't made a blaster yet. Your only offerings are the KFC version or the Fanstoys version, which will come out, but these are going to look quite good alongside whomever you choose. And keeping with MMC, they have kept going with their protector bots, and here is their version of Streetwise. Now, this looks very clean, and they look like rubber tyres. Big thumbs up from me. Dainty little robot feet. Look at them, they're tiny. This is a set I am interested in, but dubious of. And if I go to the next page, you see the whole plus point for the Ocular Max, the MMC combiners, is that they're all in one. There's no parts forming. You can see on the far side when it's in combined mode, when it's in leg mode, a leg will flop out from underneath it, and that will be the foot of Defensor. But again, look how tiny it is. This comes at a sacrifice. This comes at a point. You want to make a combiner that doesn't need parts forming. It's all built within, which I think is a great idea. Certainly saves on space and what have you. But does it sacrifice the robot mode at the end? Are we going to have this big Defensor with the tiniest little feet that you end up having to buy an upgrade kit to make look better anyway? That's kind of what happened with their Bruticus. I can see it going that way with this as well. That's not for me to bash the engineering. I do think it looks actually really good. You see the bot mode on the side. Look at the individual fingers. They look articulated. The facial expression looks really good. I've got the first day for this set. I was going to see which of the set was going to look good. Do I stick with MMC, Ocular Max, or do I go to the X-Transbots version because I felt their hotspot was looking quite good and I could just live with their version of First Aid because I like First Aid anyway. This may be enough for me to get it, and it's not typically the most expensive set in the world. They're going to probably be something to like 80 to 100 rather than say 120 plus. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it goes, and when you see the two of them side by side in bot and vehicle mode, it's going to be a good looking set, even if you don't have them combined. Blimey, MMC keep going with their releases, and there is someone who I know who wants to look at this one. This is their version of Double Dealer. Now, there's currently two versions of Double Dealer coming out on the market, of two very different styles, it has to be said. This is a very slender looking, and I don't want to say IDW inspired, it's not part of the reformatted line, but you get the impression it's of an MMC slender build, whereas you have a Fans Hobby working on Double Dealer as well, which is definitely not slender, is a chunky boy. But this is the MMC offering, and the most clearest details, again looking very final in development. That it's all painted, these are fully photographed images, and it looks fantastic. I've said before, MMC, pound for pound, are the best third-party company on the market, and they have been for a little while now. They just do so little wrong, and this is just showing that again. It looks great. It doesn't look the tallest figure in the world. If again you're going to look at scale, I put MMC's figures at Chug Plus. A bit too big for Chug and a tiny bit too small for Masterpiece. But this is going to be a big bot. It's probably going to scale with Masterpiece quite nicely. But I think this looks really good. It's probably got some shared engineering. But at the same time, you look at the chicken mode, whatever you want to call that mode, Griffin mode, it looks like a completely new design. I can't think of anything that they borrowed that from. And it comes with its Minicon compatriots or headmasters, however you want to phrase them. It looks brilliant. I think the colours look fantastic. I love the detailing that goes on it. The fact that a small figure looks full of life as well. It's just testament to MMC. They stay in their lane. They're very clear to their purpose, and their products have a good reputation because of it. It's a reputation they deserve because they work so hard at it. And again, they're not the most expensive out there. You get very good quality bots, a fraction of the price compared to some others. And we see an old friend here. MakeToys have decided to go for one final hurrah with their Seekers. It's probably a bit too late for them, if I'm being honest, but they said they would, and they did. So what we have here is their Rainmaker set, but also a new edition of Sunstorm, and that's kind of the centerpiece of this. So their Seeker mold has been out for quite some time, and for a long time MakeToys Howling Meteor, their Starscream, that mold was the only gig in town basically. No one else was out doing it at that point. But now Deformation Space have come along, and Takara got a mold coming out, or Tamara got a mold out, and then the KOs have come out, so it's kind of pushed MakeToys away. And also what didn't help is they seemed to just shut down production for the better part of a year. They lost a lot of time, and they put out the feelers for the Rainmakers a long time ago, particularly Acid Storm, and that was a long time coming, saying we're going to do them. Now we've finally seen it, but I think we're a good year late to this party. You have to really be loyal to MakeToys or loyal to this set to want to have them all now, because a lot of people have moved on in their collections. I still think the MakeToys Jet mode is possibly the weakest one. I think you just look at the pictures here, you can see the blue one on the far side. I'm afraid I cannot recall his name. It's not Thundercracker. It doesn't look great. It doesn't tab in. I've got the same with my version of Howling Meteor. The Jet mode is very much a secondary thought in this set. I love the yellow or the orange used for Sunstorm. I think it looks really vibrant, and I think it's going to really stand out, particularly with those white forearms as well. I think the bot mode still looks really good, even by today's standards. But is it too late for MakeToys with this mold? Should they just call their time and say, you've made your money off this mold, but it's time to come up with something new? I had to put this one in as well. They're possibly re-releasing, well, they're putting them all together anyway, but you've got the three original Seekers of Starscream, Thundercracker and Skywarp. But look at Thundercracker in this image. Okay, maybe there's a bit of moving going on, but do not set up your figures where one of them looks like he's half cut already. So on to Fans Hobby, and Fans Hobby did a very low-key reveal of things, considering they got a lot in the pipeline, but what they did show were some repaints or some digital renders of potential repaints to come. So this is their Ultra Meg Tyranno. This is a very different repaint of the Armada Megatron, which I have, and I'm guessing, I'm trying to remember now, is this Galvatron? Was this Galvatron's paint scheme of that mold? I don't think Galvatron took that mold. It was the Cybertron mold when he was more jet wing inspired. Can't quite remember at this point in time. Does look like a Galvatron colour scheme anyway, borrowed for this mold. Perhaps that's it. I do like it. Maybe I like it better than what I've got, particularly when you look at the turret, that very metallic magenta, which is a great couple of words together, by the way. It looks very reflective, the grey tank. There's elements of G1 in that tank, of course, being a big grey tank. It looks really good. I love the head stuff. Again, Fans Hobby put a lot of thought into their set, but they are going down repaints now a lot more than they used to, and it's getting a bit stale. And sadly, if I come on to their next offering as well, we've got Ultra Naval Commander. Now, I don't get this colour scheme at all. I did watch Armada. I don't understand, excuse the thunderstorm in the background there. I did understand why they do these repaints. We've got a lot going on. They're doing an Ultra Magnus as well, but I don't see why Fans Hobby are pushing this so hard. They've teased some other releases, but while it makes good business sense, I understand, but why are they pushing for repaints of existing molds to the 8th degree of when they once didn't? I think that's what I'm trying to get at. This wasn't their MO from before, now it kind of is. But to us, when you look at their Power Baser version and repaints and re-releases, it can get tiring. Now, before I completely throw them under the bus, they did show this, and Space Shuttle mode. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure. There is that Galaxy Shuttle that's been released in the Legacy line. Is that relating to this? My first thought was, is this Jetfire? Like an Armada or Unicron Trilogy version of Jetfire? I'm just thinking of that chubby shuttle mode, which he kind of was. Not in Armada as much, but again more Cybertron, I think it was, or even Energon. I don't know, it's too early to tell, but they are teasing us something coming next year. But they teased us before about a potential tidal wave, which again I would like to have seen a bit more of an update on. I'm still hoping so much for that, so I can't throw them too much under the bus. They are doing new things as well, but they are going down the repaint hole just as much. And on to the final offering. Now, this is something called Fantastic Model 02. Don't think there was a Fantastic Model 0. It's Fanstoys. It's Fanstoys by another name. We've seen reveals enough times now under different names and guises and font colouring to know when it's Fanstoys by another name. And I'm going to get to the naming thing in a minute, but let's look at what we have here. So this is an Optimus Prime. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. But there's a reason why it's Optimus Prime. But nevertheless, let's have a look at it. It's a very basic Optimus Prime, but it is Optimus holding Ultra Magnus's gun. So that tells you kind of where we're going with this. It's an Optimus Prime skeleton mold. It's there to be much like the original toy from back in the day, a white cab Optimus Prime, and the armour of Ultra Magnus will go around it. So it's not a dedicated Optimus. Not yet. It looks fine. The back looks very clean. Again, this would be quite far in development. What I think is quite telling, and you see this in a few of these shots, you'll see it in a definite Fanstoys release. This is why I'm saying absolutely this is Fanstoys. If you look at the legs, there's a reflectiveness to it. That tells me that's serious die-cast on there that hasn't been painted yet. Whereas if you're taking photographs of plastic, it just shines straight back at you. That's metal, that's got like a bit of a distortion to it as the light hits it from all different types of the welding and the fusing. So it's fine, but this is what it's going to ultimately look like, and this is their version of an Ultra Magnus. Interesting proportions. Looks very good. Looks very, very good. Typical Fanstoys design in that it's very articulate from the wrists down to the knees, down to the head articulation. It does look really, really good, but very chunky legs, as Ultra Magnus should. Somewhat narrow shoulder stacks. Maybe doesn't look as prominent towards the head. We're going to go up a little bit like a pyramid, perhaps. But the design looks very good. Comes with 2 heads and multiple faceplates, which again seems to be a bit of a theme now with Fanstoys. Again, this is why I'm saying it's Fanstoys. If you remember the Preceptor wars between themselves and X-Transbots, throwing out as many different faces, it's now what they do. One of the head sculpts I love, and of course it's just taken off a fan image that we see online of a shattered, broken Ultra Magnus showing his white Autobot skeleton underneath, protecting Optimus Prime. Now, if we are to believe in, I think it was RID, that the fact that Optimus and Ultra Magnus are indeed brothers. And that's a story I've always liked, and I would like to believe, and I like the fact to think that the shell, or the skeleton of Ultra Magnus being just a white version of Optimus Prime, that they could easily be related. And you get to see this kind of half broken away, and there's even an image where he's got half of it beaten and he's holding it back just for this one fan art that has done the rounds on the internet for so long. Here we have as well this is how it's all forming. We have all of these parts tucked underneath and how it's going to form. This is not how it's going to be assembled. I don't believe for 1 second that's how it is, because that's a jigsaw puzzle, that's not a transformer. But that's just showing you how it would fuse together if he were to combine that way, if you imagine it on a TV show, for example. What I think is quite telling is that we haven't seen the alt mode. We haven't seen the transformation. And actually, when you look at this set, I don't think you can see any wheels on this mould yet. You can see them on the feet, I will take that back. But it's interesting they don't show the other modes, because I'm thinking of all the other releases, you tend to get both modes shown early if you're releasing a new character. You don't get colour shots. But yeah, I can see this design being tweaked. I like it, I like how it looks. My only concern is going to be the size. Now, I'm still very, very happy with my Takara version. It's been out for quite some time, but we've now got a bit of a plethora of Ultra Magnuses coming our way, and this image that I've found, as it says at the top there, Crimson Toy Photography, so full credit to them, but it's got the upcoming releases of Ultra Magni, and on the far right you can see how he looks in the G1 cartoon. And then you have the Takara mould. Now, I'm still very, very happy with that mould. I've got it. People say it was too big at the time, it's too dated. I don't think so. I think it's still the beefy Ultra Magnus that he needs to be. He needs to tower over everything. He's Dinobot scale in my eyes. He's the only one who could stand shoulder to shoulder, at least in stature, with Grimlock. But look at the other offerings we got. X-Transbots Commander Stack, which I love that name. And fantastic model. Fanstoys version as well, and we've got, I think, quite a similar version from X-Transbots and fantastic models, Fanstoys. They're again going for that slender top half, but Fanstoys have got the chunkier legs, but the arms seem better to me on the Fanstoys version than the X-Transbots version. I will say that X-Transbots version I think is their youth version, or actually no, maybe that's a normal one. They are doing a youth version, which is a softer blue. So we've got plenty of choice. Choice is always good, but I don't know. I'm surprised this is being tackled. But then again, the Takara MP22, when did that come out? 2014? It's a long time ago now. I think it's going to be very interesting to see them all in hand. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Fanstoys version is a fair bit shorter than the Takara version. I'm also very mindful of the price. I have it in my head, this is going to be something like £190. By the time this comes out, this is going to be something like 1.5 to 2 years away from now to release and delivery. I think it's going to be that much. By the time, the way the world's been going, I can see it being just under £200, but not by an awful lot. Now, I'll very quickly touch on the name of Fanstoys here. Why is this fantastic plastic, whatever, stupid name? Fanstoys have changed their names before for a couple of reasons at least. So Fanstoys is Fanstoys. That is a company that it exists. That is a company that makes money, sells products. There is also Perfect Fusion, which came out a long time ago, with just really one release, I think, which was their version of the Slag. I forget the name of it. It wasn't Saw, was it? But it Sauria. And that was released under the provision it was somewhat going to be a limited release, because that was originally released under a Fanstoys banner, then got pulled and released under this other banner. And people have said, whilst it's incredibly rare and goes for a lot of money, that it's not of the same build quality. Now, go along, we've had Robot Paradise, and we've had a few offerings now from Robot Paradise, but again, it looks like a Fanstoys. It is a Fanstoys, feels like a Fanstoys, other than, again, the quality of the paint and plastic. I note the sound wave in that one. Everyone's saying the paint isn't quite up to Fanstoys' high standard, yet you're still paying that level of Fanstoys money. Now look at this one. Fantastic plastic, fantastic model, to give it the proper name. It's, again, is it a bit of a test run? Is it a way of not tarnishing the name of Fanstoys to use slightly cheaper materials, slightly cheaper paint, to maybe sell for the same or less money? And if it goes wrong, it's not going to reflect so badly on them, because if you think of some of the other releases we've had from Fanstoys, people have said it's not quite as stellar. They've said that about the Beachcomber before. It doesn't feel as fantastic. They do have their figures that are just a little bit indifferent. So I felt for a long time, it's the same company. The money is still going to go to the same pot, whether you're buying whatever name you're buying, it's still Fanstoys, and it's still going to go to the same bank account probably. It's a way of getting themselves out of a bit of hot water and saving a reputation if it all goes sideways. And it's, fine, they can do that. I don't understand why they do that though. It's one thing to infringe on a likeness, and it's another thing to call it by a different name, but then to call yourselves a different name to what? Throw authorities off the scent? I'm sure they know who you are. If we can work it out, I'm sure authorities can work it out too. And last but not least, we have some Fanstoys jets and a combined Superion. Now, I've got a little bit of backtracking to do here, but I'll tell you my reasons as to why. What we are seeing is all 5 of their jets together in a very clear, lined prototype, and I believe metallic, and that's the word I'm going to pick up on, metallic detailing here, all on stands. Now these are not stands that are just made to have nice planes flying in a formation. That is there to be part of the combiner unit. Now I actually said this in comment to Transformers the Show as well, give them a follow, is that you can't have the 2 arm bots coming out, Slingshot and Firefly, which have gone up for pre-order. I said that they will not have as much die cast to them. They cannot weigh what the other bots have weighed and expect to hang on without causing the combiner to topple over. It's too much. So I said they're going to be pretty much plastic, if not completely plastic, with no die cast, just to be able to sustain the weight. Now, that goes out of the window if you have a skeleton frame, and this is what this is, make no mistake. If you just look at the base of it here, everywhere you look, this is heavily stilted, heavily propped. Even at the very base of it, that is pretty much Superion's chest that's holding up Silverbolt. So what we have here is, you can see feet, I imagine arms are tucked in there somewhere. Okay, my view on this is Fanstoys have cheated a little bit. Let me tell you why. Fanstoys have cheated a bit because when they put out their original shots, they said, we're going to make 5 aerial bots, and they blurred them. They didn't give too much away early on, and I'm talking a long back when they first announced it. And they said they're all going to be the same height. You're not going to have any of this like it was back in the day where the commander was going to be the biggest one and have all of these parts hanging off them, and then you just stick on the limbs. It was going to be all fairly uniform. And as it started, that was the case. When you got Silverbolt, and then followed up with Goose first, and then Iceman and Silverbolt, and they were all much of a muchness, but then everyone got to the point of saying, we can't work out how these are going to combine. There's no combiner ports on Silverbolt. How are you going to do it? And then of course it went quiet for so long. And as time went on, eventually they said, here's Slingshot, here's Fireflights, and here's them in arm mode with a fist. Meaning that they were going on with this, and of course Fanstoys Combiners kind of become the running joke to leave it for so long because they were not sure how to finish it. It's the same with their Stunticons. They got one more to go on that with no combined image to show of Menasor. And now they've thrown out this. I can understand designs being tweaked, but this far, this long to say, here's a frame. Okay, they didn't say they weren't going to use it. They didn't say, like MMC did, it's all in one. But likewise, they didn't show it from the start. And they did say they wanted 5 bots all the same height. They did state that. They did angle that from the beginning. But that wasn't on the provision that if you wanted to combine them into Superion, you're going to need a 3rd structure of some kind, or a 6th structure, a 6th bot. Now, I'll pick out MakeToys in this one. As you've seen, I've got them just there. And they've thrown out the wolf feet, and they've thrown that out to stabilise the bot mode, but they didn't charge us for that. Not really. They've thrown that in with upcoming bot releases. You don't have to buy the feet extra to complete this, and I wonder how this is going to go. Is this set going to come up divided with the individual jets, or do we have to buy this separately? I don't know, and I know better than to choose one. That being said, let's get all the negative stuff out of the way. It's great to see all 5 of the jets so detailed and so lined. And then we get shots of Superion himself. And Again, this is showing that it's metallic as well, because if you look at Fireflight on one side on the arms, again, look at that reflectiveness on the wing. That is definitely die cast to my eyes, and I imagine it will be for you as well. Look at the back of this image. You can just about see a coloured silver bolt hanging into the back there, and I think this will be a very similar structure to what Zeta Toys have, this kind of silver bolt folding up into a square and sitting in the back of a shell for back support, but that front piece, chest and torso, will be a faux part in some ways. It will fold up and be like a U shape that Silverbolt will sit in, because if you look at the other images of Superion, you're seeing a coloured goose, a coloured Iceman, the legs, the skydive and air raid, and I can't see too much of Silverbolt. I think he's tucked away around the back. It's great that you can have either a toy accurate or a toon accurate one. You've got the long arm rifle, much like in the cartoon, and it is very slender. I'm so interested to see how this is going to compare to Zeta Toys Kronos, and having two Superions masterpiece scale in a collection. I'm still happy to have both. I'm happy to keep ones in bot mode and one in combine mode. We've got light up eyes, it seems. We've got clear plastic eyes that suggests LED features and maybe sound as well. It's good to see, it is exciting to see, but yeah, I wonder if Fanstoys cheated just a little bit. I love some of the articulation. Looks like we're going to get multiple heads, faceplates as well, articulation of the fingers. It's going to look imposing. I hope the posability is good on this set as well. So there we go, that is a roundup, a very brief roundup of some of the third-party reveals from the first day at TFCon in Chicago. There were some other reveals from New Age, but nothing that we hadn't already seen. By all means, go and check them out on TF forums and TFW 2005 as well. It's great to see stuff being released still, even though it wasn't the biggest spate of releases. Good to see some movement from X-Transbots and MMC have done very well. We'll see what happens with Fanstoys as well. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and hit that subscribe button, because I will see you on the next one.